negative emotions, like anger, like fear, like resentment, like worry. If we're not able to release that from our body, and if we just clamp it down, this is part of what's contributing to chronic illness. We're not taught how to express strong emotion in a safe and healthy manner. You see kids, they do it immediately, through 2-year-old tantrums and 3-year-old tantrums. When we see those going on, what do? We say, that's not good behaviour, stop it at once. But it's actually very good for that child to move that energy out of their body the way they are. Use your illness as a place to wake up. Use your illness as a place to recognise and allow yourself to be more than what you know yourself to be. This hasn't happened to you because you're a bad person, but it's happened to you for a reason. Trust that you know your own body better than anybody else on the planet. Trust that you know what you need more than anybody else could ever tell you. And while you don't trust that, I'll show you ways that you can get in there, and I'll hold the trust for you. I absolutely believe you know the answer. And I'll help you find it. I'm worth spending the time on to do this. And as a woman, we don't. We don't spend time on ourselves, and we don't think we deserve to spend time on ourselves. For true healing to happen, you need to be connected with your soul. That's basically what the book is about.
Let your light shine. Help others find their way out of the darkness. Extraordinarily inspiring stories from ordinary people like you and I.
I read your bio, and then I was really intrigued. And then I started to go read your book, your first book. And I was really inspired. And I thought, wow, I can't believe that we connected and we never really talked. And
well, I guess we don't really have the opportunity. And that's one of the things about writing books. Each of the women who contributed in that particular book, we were writing about our experiences of motherhood, and there are some really traumatic stories in that book, and really deeply vulnerable sharing. Within 2 days, I was receiving private messages from people who've read my chapter in particular and said, thank you, I really needed to hear that. Your story came at the perfect time. I'm in exactly the same place, and now I feel like I've got a way forward. That's why we do these things.
That's actually the whole reason why I want to do this podcast. How I am inspired. The reason, because I have seen so many people. I've been through myself too. When you're in that moment, and then it's hard for you to see, what's out there. That's why I guess it's really important for people like yourself, and you've been through, and then you can share experience and how you have been through and what you've done to get your story out of that, they call the hole, right? And then I start sharing, and I'm not surprised, but so everyone really they opened up and sharing. There's people sharing how they've had their jobs for, let's say, being in great position, making lots of money, had business, making more money than they ever dreamed of having. And they have all the things that they wanted, but they're still thinking, oh, maybe I want more. Or someone else has, let's say I have a big house. Oh, I want to have a bigger one. I have a nice car. Oh, I'll have a nicer car. And I often say is when and then. When I have that job, when I have that child, when I get married, then I'm happy. That never happened. I think I'm more excited about your next one, your next book, that Invisible Women.
Yeah, it's called Invisible Woman, Transcending the Hidden Struggle of Chronic Illness.
I actually wrote a lot of notes. I normally don't. I normally just go with some of the words that you wrote, and I said, well, is was that reading my story? And you said at 21, your gynecologist said if you wanted to have children, you should have had them when you were 18. The wise presence within, that's what I love. The wise presence within said, not true. Despite what the doctor said, you knew that wasn't your truth. I'm just very curious, because first of all, I love the wise presence within. How do you describe that wise presence within?
That is actually my soul. That is my soul essence. That is the wise presence within. It is my direct connection to the divine. And, that's where truth resides, in that divine connection. It's really indescribable. It's the kind of experience that once you've had it, you can kind of store it away and start bringing it back out with more conscious awareness of, when I need to make a decision, I've got this memory of what truth feels like for me. And I've actually this is one of the things in the last part of the book that I've just finished that I really focus on, is getting into that connection with your truth and how to work with it, how to access it. We all have an experience of that. There will be a point in your life where you did something or you were about to do something and something within you went, really? Are you sure? And that's where you're on that precipice, that decision point. Yeah.
So it's kind of like a gut feeling.
It's deeper than that. It's the connection between each of those centers of consciousness. So, the combination of intellect, intuition, and instinct. But there's also that really primal connection, particularly for women, with the womb space. I don't know, it's just this whole body. That's why I say it's a soul connection, because it's like it distills out from every single cell into this incredible strength that just says, no, you need to do it this way.
For people who are probably not so familiar with soul, like people who are not really on a spiritual path or anything yet, I think maybe intuition might be a closed word, but more than that.
Yeah.
The gut, so more than that.
The very first step in becoming familiar with that experience, the very first step is to actually stop. We're so busy, so always on the go. We don't give ourselves opportunity. We keep ourselves constantly distracted from what's real. And what's real is the experience that we're having right now in the moment. Stopping is the very first thing you need to do, and making those connections, really getting back in touch with the body and experiencing how the body actually feels. How it feels when your body is in a place of nature and all the things that you receive from nature. What does that experience actually generate inside you? And often it's just exquisite joy, and this is the truth. This is what we're here to feel and experience and be a part of. But most of us are just way too busy getting something bigger, better, shinier, because we think that's going to make us happier. The when-then that you were talking about previously. Yeah.
It's hard though when the society, what you call the system, right? Because we've been trained to think we need to go to university, we need this, we need that, and we need to get married, and all the things. And then so we'll be happy. And when everyone around you doing that, and you feel like that's the way how it should be, until we hit a point, and I guess you hit a point, right? And then
Absolutely.
Many of us, and then we find, I don't like that way. 21, I thought that was amazing. At 21, I had no idea. I was in the system.
Well, I had that moment of clarity, but then I dived back into the life that I was living then. So, for me, having children, I knew that it was one of the things I was put on the planet to do, was to be a mum. And I just knew that. I knew that from, the moment I could hold a conscious thought and remember that conscious thought. So for me, I just knew that what he was telling me was wrong. But then I went back into my life doing the things that I did. And at that point, I was in a relationship with a man who didn't want to have children anyway. So I kind of accepted, on the surface, well, that works then, that means I can stay in this relationship and we'll both be happy. Except, of course, that's not how the story ends.
That's a lot of people's stories, though, because lots of people, again, if they're not aware and then they're stuck in there, and then that's why a lot of people stay in an abusive relationship, because they just can't see there's a bigger picture. And that's why I guess it's awesome for people to share their stories, and then people can say, like what you said about before, and people reach out to you because they say, oh wow, I was like that. That's actually the whole reason I wanted to talk to different people. When I read this, and I knew when you took your, that's again in your Facebook that you share your experience, when you took your 11-month-old daughter to the hospital to have a big operation, right? That was a big one.
She had a bone marrow biopsy. So for an 11-month-old baby, that was a big deal. Yeah.
I would imagine even for, adults. And you describe how you and your baby's fear feed each other. I can imagine when you describe, your sweat coming out of your armpit. I obviously felt that fear. How did you, in that moment, how did you find calm?
Again, that was that soul presence within, really making itself felt, by reminding my subconscious that, you actually have this gift for holding space. This is one of the gifts that you were born with, is this ability to change a vibrational energy in a space to hold safety, so that people can feel safe to be vulnerable, to let go, to receive the depth of healing that they need. And this was my first experience of actually being able to distance myself from the fear and to actually just be there for my daughter, and to go, it wasn't a conscious, okay, I'm not scared anymore. It was more, okay, I'm going to make this safe for her. And I don't know what the process was. It was a very subconscious thing, but I just felt this incredible sense of calm. It was almost like, having angel wings wrapped around both of us. And just inside this space, inside the angel wings, was, okay, we can deal with this now. Yeah. I mean, the anxiety and all of that stuff, the minute I handed her over to the doctor and walked out of the operating theatre, all of that anxiety came right back. But it was enough for me to be able to have her go into surgery and receive her anaesthetic and go into an unconscious state, in a state of safety.
Could that also be like a mother nature, like an instinct from the mother? Normally, and also the other thing is that you forgot about yourself.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is, this whole idea of detaching from outcome. This is kind of woven in there. I mean, I wasn't conscious of any of that stuff at that point in my life, and certainly in that moment, no. But looking back, it is an acceptance and trust that I'm handing this child over to people who know what they're doing. I trust that they are going to do their absolute best for her. So, there's a whole combination of things going on there. As you know, with energy, that's always the way. It's always constantly changing and flowing. And we all experience things slightly differently. But at that point, it was like, a space holding ability, as it over and above that mother instinct, because I think with mother instinct, we can all do that, but there is an element of, don't touch my baby, I'm going to kill you if you do anything to my child, inside of that vibration. This was more like a reassurance from the divine through my subconscious that everything's going to be okay. Just trust. Yeah. It was a complete letting go. And like I said, I was unconscious of what that actually was. I just experienced that sensation in my body.
I feel the same thing. I feel when I tap into that energy, everything I call come what may, letting go. Everyone has that. It's like, it's within, right? It's there. We
Absolutely.
we just don't see that. We can't. So that's,
well, let's face it, we're a world of control freaks.
Talking about control freak, I remember you wrote, either I do this, that means treating being a marketing manager for being a massage therapist. And I thought that, a marketing manager versus a massage therapist, that is a big difference, right? Well, traditionally, right? And then you either I do this, or you and the girls, meaning your kids, you and the girls will be visiting me in a County ward, and I assume that's the mental health. No, actually, no, that's a mental health unit, right?
Yeah.
I thought, wow, sorry, there's more. And you said to your husband, can you honestly tell me you like living with me in this state? I'm such a bitch and I'm sick of being tired and angry all the time. I'm sick of being and you use a different word, I changed it, a bad mom. Sick of working where what I do doesn't matter. Sick of trying to help people who don't want my help. I just can't do it anymore. So you were at that time at a breaking point.
I was, absolutely. And, the thing with that, it wasn't until I actually said that ward, you'll see me in the county ward, that I went, okay, I actually am going insane. I actually am in trouble here. If I don't do something, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I have to do something differently. And it was when I actually voiced that fear to my husband that I actually realized, oh my God, that's actually true.
I have heard similar stories, probably not go insane, or some people, but more so I heard, and someone told me the day she took a long leave, and then the week before she had to go back and she couldn't sleep. The thought of have to, go back to work. And when you were in that state, you knew you just couldn't do it. But what kind of things that went through your mind, and how did you get out of it?
I really didn't like who I was. I was very sarcastic. I took a lot of things personally at work, which I shouldn't have. I was just feeling on the back foot the whole time and really defensive and not good enough, and everything I did was a failure. It was just this horrible, I just didn't like who I was. And, I would cry on the way to work. Like, I would drop my kids off at school and daycare and all of that stuff, and then cry for the 15-minute drive from there to work, and then have to sit in the car park for about 10 minutes to pull myself together to actually walk in the front door. I just thought, I can't do this anymore. Who the hell am I? And I'd be sitting in my head going, this isn't what I thought I'd be doing. This is not what I dreamed of. I was living in hell to maintain a lifestyle that looked good on the outside, but I wasn't enjoying it. It was horrible.
And I often say, heaven, hell, for me, it's not an actual place. It's really a state of mind, right? When you feel like
absolutely,
you feel worthless and helpless, and I can't do this, and I can't, and I don't like who I am. You are in hell. That's exactly when I feel angry, when I feel resentful or not happy, and then that's when I'm in hell. But how? And you did mention how you went to that point.
At that point, I had 4 children. The youngest was probably about 2, I think.
Yeah,
from memory.
Very different.
Yeah. So, and I was working full time, and I did things like, I did negotiate a shorter week. So I worked, I worked shorter hours for 5 days a week, but didn't really help. It was, and even though you have, you've negotiated this and you have the CEO sign off that this is the hours you work, you then have to deal with things like, people in other departments calling meetings at 3:30 in the afternoon when you're supposed to leave at 2. And, all the flack that goes with, oh, so how come you're leaving early? And all this, because you deal with people who aren't in your immediate work team, so they don't know what your work arrangements are. So there's a whole added layer of all this stuff that you've got to manage, and you still end up working the same amount of time, but now you're getting paid for the shorter hours, and still being treated like dirt. It's just like, well, That didn't work either. I just need to get completely out of this environment, because we have all these policies on paper about flexible work time and we support women in work and blah, blah, blah. Putting those in practice doesn't work. They just, and, and it could just be that the environment that I was in, which was the public sector, it just isn't able to accommodate enough flexibility to honour those policies on paper in practice. And certainly for me, it didn't work.
Interesting.
The solution for me was leaving.
Yeah. For the public sector, most people would think, oh, it's easy. And then, they have lots of money and then they can support you. And then you have all the public holidays and
that too, 25 years ago.
How would you describe yourself now?
I'm happy. The baseline emotion when I wake up these days is, wonder what's going on today. Whereas, I really related to what you were telling me about your friend who, the week before going back after long service leave of, I don't want to go, I can't sleep. I mean, that used to be my existence. Sunday afternoon it would start. I don't want to go to work tomorrow. I don't want to go to work. And just the whole gut clench and the, I don't want to do it. My life has a sense of easiness about it and the possibility of choice. I can choose. Now, don't get me wrong, we all actually have choice. We just think we don't. When we're caught in a situation of work that is so intense, we think there's no choice, that it has to be this way. And it's kind of the brainwashing that our culture does to ensure that that's how you feel. So when you start on that journey of opening your eyes and looking outside the box, people start to call you crazy. They go, oh, you're looking at the world through rose-coloured glasses. You're off in la la land. That's not how the world operates. And to a certain extent, they're right, because that's not how the world they're still in operates. But it's not the only way the world operates, if you know what I mean. We can actually do things differently if we choose to.
But back to when you were, at your lowest point, you say, I'm going crazy. And then you wanted to become a massage therapist. Marketing manager, from the outside, it's shiny, right? Oh, beautiful, successful, a title. And at that time, you were obviously not aware of all the things that you're aware of now. When we're not aware, we live in, what do people think of me? Or the reason we buy more stuff or accumulate and have titles is because of that, right? So how did you at that time, make that decision?
I've always had this thing in me that's different. Like there's just a differentness in me that I notice to other people. Really imaginative and, I actually wanted to be a vet when I was a child. I was much more interested in animals than people. Because my experience of people through my childhood was they're not very nice and animals are much nicer. So I wanted to work with animals. And, there's always been that part of me that believed in magic, that, there's magic here somewhere. And I lost all of that as I moved into my early 20s and started work and all of that. But in that transition, and like I said this, I don't know whether it was in that chapter or there was another chapter I wrote in a book called Intuitive Speaking Her Truth. And it might have been in there that I wrote this, or it could even be in the current book, can't remember. The universe gives you opportunities along the way. And when we stop listening, that's when we start getting really louder and louder and louder wake-up calls, which are things like pain, fatigue, migraine, huge stress, you know, and they could be acute health conditions start suddenly manifest. We get these wake-up calls. But before we get to that stage, there are these other little wake-up calls that, you know, oh, you could do it this way, you could do it this way. And one of those for me was just after graduating from university. Well, actually, during my study years, I started doing Tai Chi and got really interested in that whole idea of energy moving through the body, how the body felt when I was doing Tai Chi. And the guy who was teaching it at that point had just come back from 12 months in a Buddhist monastery. So he was bringing all this other dimension of Buddhist philosophy into how he was teaching the Tai Chi. And that's when I first discovered, oh, there's other stuff other than, you know, there's another way to think about the world. And I kind of agree with this idea of reincarnation. I kind of agree with this idea of the body being more than we can see. So this is a long answer. So after I actually graduated and I moved to Brisbane for a while, I started doing Tai Chi again there. And I was with a Tai Chi school that they did like the triumvirate. They did the Tai Chi for the meditative benefit there. They did the Kung Fu for the, you know, the actual hard form and the Tai Chi. And they also did the Chinese medicine. So it was like a continuous loop. So I really got interested in the Chinese medicine and started studying with the guy in the school that was doing that bit. So getting into, you know, the herbs, the acupuncture, learning about the meridians and so on. And I was really interested in it. And I thought, this is actually what I want to do. I actually want to do this. But at that point in my life, you know, I'd graduated with this degree in marketing, and at that point had a job in a real estate industry body in Sydney doing marketing. And, you know, I just moved up to Brisbane and started working in a publishing house. And here was this Chinese medicine calling my name. And then I got headhunted by an advertising agency in Darwin. I went, guess I should be doing that then. So I walked away from it. You know, I should actually be putting this degree into use. So, you know, the universe was saying, look, you've got a choice here. You can go and use that degree, or you can do this thing that's really intriguing, that's really captured your interest, that's really calling you. You can really go and do that. But no, I chose to go the route of, no, I must be successful. Success looks like this. Success looks like a well-paid job. You know, you move up the ladder, you get married, you have a house, blah, blah, you know, all of the things, right? Yeah. But I had opportunity again, you know, the opportunity to study. I got accepted by UTS to study a Bachelor of Health Science in acupuncture. I got accepted, went down for the interview, passed the interview, was all set to sign up, and I fell pregnant. And that was kind of the end of that. So, you know, these little things happen. So when it came to time for me to decide to leave and move into massage therapy, for me, it wasn't that big a deal. It was like, yeah, it's pretty damn obvious. This is what I want to do. And at that point, I understood massage therapy to be a stepping stone. It was going to get me back into acupuncture. Like, it would get me out, give me opportunity to get out of corporate, because it was easy for me to learn, easy for me to apply. And at that point, you know, to do acupuncture, you had to study in person, obviously. You know, there's good obvious reasons for that. But massage therapy, there was a school offering it with an instructor in Darwin, which meant I didn't have to leave Darwin. I could do it here. And then once I had this qualification under my belt, then I could turn and look at what else I could possibly do. So for me, the transition from marketing to massage was actually quite logical.
Like everything, it's not just overnight, right? It's not, it doesn't overnight. No. Well, maybe sometimes, but majority not. I also believe in, even when you said about at 21, you had that, you know, the inner wisdom that you, or the inner presence that you became aware. And then even if you didn't, you know, at that time you didn't, something else, I feel it's like what you said, we have been giving a lot of opportunities to say either wake up and to pay attention, and we just ignore. But then eventually, so either I often say that either we are forced. So, you know, knock on the head, and then if you don't listen, and then, oh, okay, now I listen. Or we follow that instinct, and then it comes naturally. And then that's what I want to, when I hear something, I want to follow. I want to take action to follow that voice rather than what I want. Oh, that shiny object. And a lot of us are trapped in that though. And like what you said, yeah, I know this is what I love, or something is right for me. But oh, I look at this, I can't let it go. Or this is, you know, what success is.
A lot of it's to do with upbringing. A lot of it's to do with the social framework that we live in, and this whole consumer society that we live in. You know, there's this subconscious agreement that we've all made that we have to participate in mindless consumerism to be an accepted member of the society. Like it's not a conscious thing, it's unconscious. And that's really, really hard to deal with, really hard, you know, and it's breaking all of us. Like the whole human population is not particularly healthy. Our planet is not particularly healthy, and our mindset is completely warped. I mean, look at the incredible numbers of mental health, and they're climbing, and they're, you know, people younger and younger and younger are developing mental health issues. It's time we actually, as a collective, stopped and had a look. And I think a lot of what was going on with COVID from a universal perspective is, come on, humanity, sit down and take a long, hard look at yourself. And some of us have done that, but the human impulse to go back to the way things were is so strong that we've immediately, as soon as we got the opportunity to just go back to normal, that's what we did, rather than looking at normal and going, well, hell, actually, do we want this to be our normal? Do we want something better? I vote for something better than the old normal, thank you. But we didn't get that opportunity. We didn't take the opportunity. We were given it, but we didn't actually utilize it at a collective level. How do we overcome that? Individually, there's more of us becoming aware, more of us waking up, more of us becoming conscious, and more of us voicing the fact that this isn't the only way. We could do things differently. Why don't we give it a go?
That's it. Yeah. I've noticed in a list for myself that the past 3-4 years, because I become more aware, and then I find the law of attraction. So all the people just show up. And in the past, and I remember the first time I went connected with people, and I thought, wow, where were these people? They obviously were there, but I didn't know. So all these people, they were fully aware. Well, to me, we were so, I didn't know. And then I saw, wow, suddenly it's like I was living, it's like one eye. I was looking on this side, and I completely didn't see the other side. And then when I use both of my eyes, and I look, oh, wow, there's another world. And there's, from the past few years, I've connected with so many people who are actually becoming the ambassadors. And then they wanted to help. That's, I guess, the whole thing. Now I want to bring these people and then to shine their light, so other people can. I call they are really in the dark. So when you shine your light, and then you can help other people walk out of the darkness. Are you kind of a more very happy every day, or are you still going a little bit up and down a little bit?
I do have days where I wake up feeling a bit irritable. Yeah. And I go, I wonder why that is. And then it's like, well, I don't like this feeling, so may as well be happy. And it's nice to have reached a place where, one, I can notice that, and two, I can choose, and three, I can actually make that choice, actually think it's not just okay, I've woken up cranky, but I choose to be happy. It's more like, okay, well, I don't like that feeling. I wonder what it is, explore it a little bit. And if it comes up with, oh, that's what it is that's made me feel irritable. Okay, well, what can I do about that? fix that. All right. How do I feel now? Well, I feel pretty good. Okay, well, I can live with that. Whereas, before it might have been get stuck in a thought loop and just stay cranky all day. And by the time you get, to the end of your day, it's like, right, I'm not cranky anymore. I'm really angry. I'm furious, that's when you start having that yucky time in your house, where you're trying to get dinner ready and everybody's tired and miserable, and it all just feeds off each other. But we can choose to just, acknowledge that that's how I'm feeling, deal with it in whatever manner works for you. Sometimes it could be just standing on the earth and letting it drain out of your feet. Sometimes it could be a chakra balance. Sometimes it could be singing. Sometimes it could be dancing. There are things that we can do to shift our mood.
You still have bad days. It's like of people thinking, oh, now you're all good and life is wonderful and every day.
The other thing that happens when we do have those negative emotions, like anger, like fear, like resentment, like worry, if we're not able to release that from our body, and if we just clamp it down, this is part of what's contributing to chronic illness. This is part of how, we find ourselves on that slippery slope. There's so many factors that come into it, but this whole thing about mood and emotions is really a powerful contributor to whether or not you end up with a chronic illness. And I think there are so many people who are so miserable and unhappy, even if on the surface they're showing, yeah, everything's great, I'm having a great time. And, they might be big party people, but they're drinking a lot of alcohol to have that fun sort of thing. Underneath, there's this toxic load that we're just filling our bodies with, and the body's just going, oh, I can't handle this. And it's causing physical pain, it's causing physical symptoms, it's causing digestive issues, it's causing organ dysfunction, all these things that can be attributed to stuffed down emotion, and that's part of it. There's a lot of other stuff, but that's part of it. So, and I think as a society, and for women in particular, we are taught subliminally that strong emotion is not seemly. Expressing strong emotion is not seemly. It's not the done thing. You're not a good girl if you express anger. Now, there's nothing actually wrong with anger. It's just as valid an emotion as joy. But we're taught that anger is a bad thing, and that you can't express your anger, and so you have to do something else with it, which is usually this, So, yeah, I think when it comes to our emotions, it's not bad if we feel cranky. It's not bad if we feel angry. It's bad if we let it control us, and it's bad if we turn it in on ourselves and create illness in ourselves. The key, I think, is choosing, well, how do I work with this? If I'm angry about something, what's caused it? Okay, how can I address that? How can I address that in a way that is safe and beneficial for all of those who might be involved in that particular situation? It's there for a reason. Let's look at what the reason is. Let's look at a way of expressing that healthily. See, we're not taught how to express strong emotion in a safe and healthy manner. You see, kids, they do it immediately, through 2-year-old tantrums and 3-year-old tantrums. When we see those going on, what do? We say, that's not good behaviour, stop it at once. But it's actually very good for that child to move that energy out of their body the way they are. There's nothing actually wrong with that. We just think it's wrong.
I think it's like people say, stop crying. All right.
Yeah.
Stop. Don't cry.
Yeah. What are you crying for? It's nothing to cry about. Well, it must be. I'm crying. It must have hurt me somewhere.
That's where we've been trained to, right? Because at that age, we were freely expressing. And actually, so interesting. My son is 4, and his concept is now. And I say, oh, we're gonna see this friend now. We're going to do something now.
It's interesting what you've just said about your son. You know, his concept is now, everything happens now. And that's a truism. You know, we have that. We're born with, as children, in the abundance of the ever-present now, and we're gradually trained out of it. So by the time we get to adulthood, we're always in the future or in the past. We're never in the ever-present now, where we actually exist.
That's
it's
actually
interesting.
Yeah, it is. I actually only just started noticing, because every time we say something, he always about now, because he has no concept of tomorrow or Tuesday or whatever days.
Just trying to cast myself back into, you know, when I was that, I called myself the mad mum, when I was working full-time with 4 young kids. My husband at that point in time was working shift work. So there was a lot of time I was actually being a single mum in the sense that the full load landed on my shoulders. And I would just, you know, when I got out of bed, I would be just this flatness. It's just numb, flat, numb, yuck. And then it would be, I would start getting anxiety as my brain would start going through the to-do list of who I've got meetings with today, what I have to do, this deadline's looming, blah, 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 blah. Oh, so-and-so's got an appointment, you know, all the things that I had to try and juggle by myself in my workspace and the family. So my baseline when I would get out of bed would be total numbness, quickly followed by anxiety, quickly followed by lots of stress, and noticing whether I've got a migraine coming or I've got a headache. So I'd race out and have a big cup of strong coffee, take some, you were at that point in time still able to buy Panadeine Forte over the counter. If I felt like I had a migraine coming, I would take Panadeine Forte in the morning and take some with me to work, and have it again at lunchtime, which wouldn't stop the migraine, but it would just create this fuzziness that I could try and operate. I don't even think I really noticed that I had a mood. I was just in this constant state of operating right on the edge of feeling like I was falling apart, but getting into a place of numbness to actually get through the day. It really took to me getting to the point of going, this is sending me crazy. I have to change completely before I could actually do anything about it. And it's taken a number of years from that point to be able to get to a place of going, okay, look, I'm not feeling all that flash today. Is it pain? Is it mood? Is it, is it something else? What's going on for me? And often it's everything, often it's, because I deal with fibromyalgia. So pain, energy, brain fog, depression, they're all things that are part and parcel of fibromyalgia. So getting yourself to a place where you feel okay takes a little bit of work, So I see a naturopath, I take supplements, I see my GP. Occasionally she has recommended medicine for me. Sometimes I choose to take it, sometimes I don't, depending on how bad I feel. You get to know what supports work for you. You take those supports and use them as you need to. And then your own inner work can be, things that work for me are meditation. I do self-Reiki. I'm a Reiki master, so I do self-Reiki. And every night, as often as I can, it's usually every night, I do long, slow stretches before I go to bed. So my mainstays are meditation, Reiki, and stretching. If I can do that every day, I find that maintains my baseline at a higher level. And then I can add stuff on top of that, So I think it's first acknowledging exactly what's going on for you and then going, okay, so how can I change this? Is it something that I can do for myself? Like, is it just a matter of dancing out an angry bit and feeling better? Or is there something more persistent going on that perhaps I need some help with? If you're dealing with chronic illness, it makes sense that you see a specialist and listen to what they say and, do what you need to do. I don't advocate that you stop whatever protocol you're on, because your specialist has a much closer understanding than I do of what's happening for you. But don't overlook the fact that you're the specialist in yourself. So you really need to start educating yourself. And that's what my current book is about, is developing that self-education about what works for me. How can I help myself get to be in a place where I feel okay every day and feel fantastic some days, but, you know, I'm not going back down. You know, we have this kind of thing going on with chronic health. So we want to even that out a bit and move the baseline from here to here. And then, you know, we can possibly shift it to here, to here, to here. It's a constant evolution. And it requires a huge mindset shift of, I'm worth spending the time on to do this. And as a woman, we don't spend time on ourselves, and we don't think we deserve to spend time on ourselves. That's a luxury that, no. And the funny thing is, each woman treats herself in a way she would never treat her best friend. And if she saw her best friend treating herself that way, would be pulling her aside and saying, what the hell are you doing? And yet we each do that to ourselves. So it's time that we became our own best friend and started treating ourselves the way we would treat our best friend.
So it's really self-care, right? You're talking about, and looking after yourself, and take time for yourself, not just rushing and looking after everybody else. It's like what I often say, you can't give what you don't have. So if you are, your cup is empty and you can't offer other people. What do you think the main contribute factors of your, I guess, the chronic illness?
I had glandular fever when I was 11, I think it was. And my understanding, my internal intuitive knowing is that's the key for me, is the Epstein-Barr virus lives inside my body. And it's manifested in a number of different inflammatory conditions over the years, such as endometriosis, irritable bowel syndrome. You know, I had postnatal depression with my first child. I have migraines, and, you know, I've got this fibromyalgia condition, which I lived in denial of for many years. I denied it.
What conditions fibromyalgia normally has?
So it often manifests as musculoskeletal pain in the musculoskeletal system, just widespread pain, you know, aching joints, muscles that hurt, muscles that fatigue very quickly and move past fatigue into pain straight away. So, like, you know, hanging out the washing, just doing this action for about 2 minutes, and my arms are killing me.
When it flares up and then you're having really a bad day, how would you describe? So you said about hanging the washing and then that.
Yeah. Look, if I have a flare up, it usually manifests as a migraine.
A migraine
for me. Yeah. And, you know, for a number of years, it would be a migraine for about 3 days. And that was excruciating. There were a couple of times where it got so bad that I actually took myself I didn't take myself, got my husband to take me to emergency, just so that they could give me, you know, really, really high strength painkiller to stop the pain. Because, you know, if they talk about a pain scale of 1 to 10, this was like a 19 out of 10 sort of thing. It was like I'd be walking around the house looking out my window going, I wish my house was higher, because then I could jump out the window and end this. Whereas if I just jump out the window here, I'm just going to break a leg.
Wow.
You know, it was bad. These days, if I have a flare up, you know, and it's a migraine, I'm I'm lucky to contain it within a day,
Okay.
you know, and not get to that excruciating point.
You still have these conditions, but it's mild, manageable, rather than in the old days or in the past, and it's like you just want to jump out. Yeah. Okay. And then is that what you in the book, in Invisible Woman, Transcending the Hidden Struggle of Chronic Illness? So that book, so you exploring the strategies. What do you say in that book?
I base a lot of that obviously on my personal experience of managing fibromyalgia, of managing endometriosis in my teens and irritable bowel syndrome in my 20s. And so the things that I discovered and used along the way, and how I help clients at the moment with whatever it is that's going on with them. So although it's based on my experience with fibromyalgia, the commonality of symptoms across a wide range of chronic illnesses that encompass autoimmune disease, central sensitivity syndromes, which is what fibromyalgia is, and also, you know, the government defined chronic health conditions, you know, because there's such a commonality of symptoms, these strategies work for those as well. And so it's basically about connecting with that soul presence within, because that's where the true healing lies. Once we can actually come into connection with divine, you know, it makes everything so easy. So these are strategies on how to get to know yourself better, how to find your way within the body, and how to actually start making that conscious connection, so that the body can benefit from your soul energy flowing through your body, essentially. Yeah, that's where your healing lies.
So it's not just a book like a doctor sharing how a doctor treat a patient, or someone sharing their personal experience of how they manage the condition. It's more than that to go. That's why I guess the whole spiritual side part of it, that you go with it and realize, oh, there's what do you call inner wisdom, or you call the otherness. And that was a very interesting word, and I never heard.
Because I can't find a word to describe it. There's always been this otherness in me, which I guess these days I would identify as connection to higher wisdom. So whether that's my soul presence, whether it's my higher self, whether it's spirit guides, whether it's angels, you know, any of those archetypal energies, that ability has always been there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you also help, and you have other practice, and you do hands-on or consult or anything?
I do, obviously for Darwin women, I do hands-on work, but I also do online consulting where, you know, I more guide and mentor and provide healing space, and, you know, Reiki obviously is part and parcel of the package. But there's a whole range of things that I do with people online. And yes, a lot of the work that I do is energetic and spiritual, but it's very based in the body and very based in making practical application of what I'm teaching you to make connection with the body. The skills that I have is in connecting with the body and listening to what's going on in the body. What is it? Where are you hurting? Why? How can I help you? What do you need? Those sort of things. And it's empowering other people to be able to do that for themselves. They don't need to go and have somebody else tell them what's going on in their body. They already know. They just need to have the self-confidence to know that they know that. Do you know what I mean? It's a confidence thing. Trust that you know your own body better than anybody else on the planet. Trust that you know what you need more than anybody else could ever tell you. And while you don't trust that, I'll show you ways that you can get in there, and I'll hold the trust for you. I absolutely believe you know the answer, and I'll help you find it. But the answer's there for you. Oh, it's a helicopter flying over. It's making my house shake. There's one place in my book where I say, look, I don't have the answer, and this is not a cure. This is healing. And healing is actually an ascension pathway. It's a journey of transcendence. This is, for true healing to happen, you need to be connected with your soul. That's basically what the book is about. To find true healing, connect with your soul. And here are some ways to do that. I'll show you. These are how you can do it. When you're in a state of acute pain or acute flare-up, you do what you need to do to manage that. This is not the time to go into meditation or try, these approaches. At those acute moments, you need to do what you can do to get through the acute stage. So, for instance, myself with migraine, if I feel there is a migraine coming on, rather than racing out and taking my migraine medication straight away, some of the strategies that I try that I know work for me are stretching. I know stretching helps me. And the stretching I'm talking about is long, slow hold stretching that opens the fascial tissue rather than muscle tissue, because I know that that's going to help release the buildup of energy that's occurring up here. And there's a specific meditation that I discovered on Insight Timer that uses Yoga Nidra as a way to help. And I found it's all about timing. If you can catch it at the right time, you can nip it in the bud, so to speak. So it's about learning what your triggers are, noticing when it's getting to a point of, okay, this is going to manifest as a really bad 3 days in bed if I'm not careful. How can I divert that? How can I change that outcome? I can take medication, or maybe this is a point where I can try this approach, or maybe this approach will work, or maybe this approach will work. So it's about giving people choices that aren't just suffer or take medication and suffer the consequences, because let's face it, the medications that they are giving us for these things are pretty horrible in themselves, and some of the side effects are worse than what you're already dealing with. So, let's have some choice. But it's about understanding yourself and being responsible for your choices.
It's a gradual process, right? It's not a straight away and then talk to Linda, done, tomorrow you'll be all healed.
Yeah. Well, it could be. I say always be open to miracles, because miracles do happen, but I can't guarantee it. That's the source of miracle lies within you. And, if we can get out of our own way fast enough, it'll happen. That's where it is, So, be open to the miracle, but also be open to the fact that you're going through this for a reason. I wonder what that reason is. I wonder what it is you need to learn here. Are you learning the lessons? Okay, how can you apply those lessons? This hasn't happened to you because you're a bad person, but it's happened to you for a reason. I was born with the words wake up ringing in my ear. I can remember as a kid, I'd have this echo of wake up, wake up. I'd see stuff on the news and it'd be this wake up. Why can't you see what you're doing? Sort of thing, response to what I was seeing on the news. And that's it. This is the person-to-person wake-up call of, okay, yeah, you've got the answer. You've got the answer. Come on, wake up. You've got the answer.
Your waking up is really waking up the god and the goddess within themselves, and then the inner knowing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's making that connection. Okay. Yeah.
And it's specifically people who have chronic illness, because you've been through it and your journey. Because
the way that you can learn the lessons of why you've got this is, that spiritual development pathway runs alongside it. So use your illness as a place to wake up. Use your illness as a place to recognize and allow yourself to be more than what you know yourself to be.
Okay. So it's like what we say, things happen for us, not to us. So the things happen for a reason for us to learn. What can we learn from that? There's obviously like the inner guidance is trying to tell us something, like what you said about to wake up to something greater than what we are now. How can people find you? How can people connect with you?
Well, my website is lovelali.com. And the way to remember my business name is Love, Laugh, Live. So it's Love Lali. Yeah.
Oh, I love
lovelali.com. And you can find me on Facebook as well at Transform with Love Lali.
Thank you so much, Linda. And I really appreciate your time, and then share your wisdom. I call share your genius. Everyone, I believe, like yourself, the same thing. I believe everyone, we all unique. We have a gift and to share with others. Normally, podcasts and people during interview famous people and things, right? I look at it, I call international influencers. We all influencers.
Let your light shine. Help others find their way out of the darkness. Extraordinarily inspiring stories from ordinary people like you and I. I believe we are all extraordinary, yet we're all ordinary. Let your light shine.